Tony Verna and Instant Replay. Background. In the 1963 Army-Navy game, TV director Tony Verna lugged a 1,200-pound magnetic tape machine into the stadium to replay a touchdown to improve viewer understanding. It became an officiating tool. This connects to another innovation, the Hawkeye. Both show how accuracy tools often migrate from entertainment or broadcasting to governance. This relates to Module 2 key idea of resistance. The technology was so disruptive to the norm that the announcer had to explain it wasn't a live second scored to confused viewers. Module 1 key idea. Innovations beget other innovations. Instant replay relied entirely on earlier recording innovations like the magnetic tape. This relates to the DNA model as well, cognitive skill associational thinking. He synthesized the novel input of television recording with the real-time demand of sports. Hawkeye replay system. Background. This system emerged from frustration with a disputed call. It used cameras and trajectory models to predict the ball's location. This connects to another innovation, which is the automated timing, touchpads RFID. Both systems shift authority away from human perception and place it into engineered systems. It relates to Module 2 key idea of uncertainty. Hawkeye directly attempts to reduce human error, eliminate ambiguity, and secure trust in officiating results. It relates to Module 1 key idea, understanding precedes innovation. The creators needed a profound understanding of physics and velocity to build an accurate model. It relates to the DNA model of courage to innovate, challenging the status quo. They challenged the century-old tradition of human umpires being the ultimate authority. Rise of Analytics, Bill James and Billy Beane. Analytics emerged from World War II operations research, freelance journalism, and hobbyists. Bill James argued MLB teams misunderstood player value by relying on gut feeling. Billy Beane later proved James right by using stats like on-base percentage to build a winning team on a tiny budget. This relates to Mike Leach, which was another innovation. Both demonstrate that when value is recalculated, either through stats or through play calling geometry, strategic behavior fundamentally changes. Relates to Module 2 a key idea, seeing things where others don't. James observed patterns differently and questioned assumptions about what made a player good. Relates to Module 1 key idea, innovations emerge in a historical context. Analytics took off because the internet accelerated the diffusion of data, and baseball already had a massive history of discrete countable events. DNA model behavioral skill questioning. James relentlessly questioned the subjective scouting methods of MLB teams. Mike Leach, offensive coach. The background was that Leach became an innovative coach despite never playing college football. He reduced the number of plays, increased the number of formations, and challenged the traditional use of positions. This relates to Bill Walsh. Both proved that innovation is not just technological, but rather aesthetic and structural. It relates to the Module 2 key idea of the aesthetic approach. Leach expanded what an offense could look like within the rules, proving boundaries are wider than they appear. It relates to Module 1 key idea that everyone has the potential to innovate. He had no formal background in elite college football, but revolutionized it anyway. This relates to the DNA model courage to innovate, taking smart risks. He threw out the traditional massive playbook for a crumpled piece of paper. Bill Walsh, management approach. The background was that he built a football dynasty by emphasizing detailed planning, reorganizing practice, and focusing on communication and ego management. He scripted the first 15 plays to remove panic. This relates to Tony Verna. Just as Verna systemized the viewing experience, Walsh systemized the coaching and organizational experience. This relates to Module 2 key idea of seeing things where others don't. He recognized that an insecure leader silences good ideas, seeing psychological management as an untapped advantage. It relates to Module 1 idea that innovation as a process. Walsh made winning a replicable process rather than relying on serendipity. And this relies on behavioral skill networking as he mastered interpersonal communication and managed the egos of his players. Here's how Module 2 concepts apply to the stories from Exam 1. Mike Schultz Modoni and seeing things where others don't. Schultz looked at a shattered prosthetic, and instead of seeing a medical problem, he saw a mechanical one, applying dirt bike shock absorbers. Hinda Miller with the jog bra, Lisa Lindell, and the concept of resistance. They faced immense pushback from the establishment when sporting goods stores told them that they only sell things to men. Art Arat with the breakaway rim and the aesthetic approach. He reinterpreted the constraint of the hoop. He kept the form, it was still a 10-foot hoop, but changed the style by adding a spring to allow for the modern dunk. To pull off aesthetic innovation, a person must use the DNA sequence. For aesthetics specifically, they need the courage to innovate, challenging the status quo, to look at rigid rules and constraints and not be intimidated. They deploy behavioral skills, particularly questioning and experimenting, and this feeds into associational thinking. Aesthetics is the framework we use to answer questions like why are some things considered great while others seem mediocre. Aesthetic thinking relies on three core terms: constraints, which in sports are limitations like time, space; form, this is what determines what counts as legitimate; and style, which is the manner of performing within the form. Reinterpreting constraints, form versus style. Innovation doesn't eliminate constraints, but rather reinterprets them. Great innovators work fully within the rules, stretching what is allowed to expand their understanding of the form. The aesthetic approach perfectly illustrates that the boundaries of what is possible are often wider than they appear. An example of this is with Mike Leach. Mike Leach didn't change the rules of football, but rather reinterpreted the constraints by challenging the traditional use of positions, reducing plays, and increasing formations. By altering his style, he expanded the form of an offense while staying strictly within the established rules.